Jonas and the Journey to Space. Once upon a time, in a cozy house with windows from which it was possible to observe the sky, there was a magical room where lived a boy named Jonas. He was very creative and a dreamer. Jonas loved to observe the stars and the moon in the sky. All of this fascinated him, and one of the things he most enjoyed doing in his room was inventing toys with cardboard. Jonas created beautiful rockets and dreamed of being a space explorer. His room wasn't full of expensive or state-of-the-art electronic toys, but it was a place full of fantasies and imagination, a stage for incredible adventures. Jonas was the master of that kingdom of fantasy. For him, the room wasn't just a place to sleep and keep his toys, it was a secret portal to travel the universe. One beautiful day, Jonas took a cardboard box that was in his room and got inside. He closed his eyes and began to imagine flying through space, as if he were an astronaut on a spaceship. There, alone with his thoughts, Jonas embarked on extraordinary journeys without even leaving the place. In his mind, he imagined himself piloting a spaceship. Jonas was flying through space in search of adventures and to unravel the universe. Jonas continued his adventure and flew through many places in space. He saw some planets of the solar system and marveled at everything. Jonas aboard his ship saw the planet Mercury, and he said, "This is the smallest of all planets and the closest to the sun." Then Jonas flew close to the planet Venus. He said, "Ah, this planet is all bright and covered in clouds." He continued to unravel the universe, and the darkness of space was adorned by the brilliance of the stars. Jonas passed by planet Earth and went to the moon. Arriving there, he saw that Earth was gigantic, and he also realized that the sun's light reached and illuminated all the planets in our system, and even the moon was illuminated by the sun. In his ship, he saw a reddish planet. It was Mars. Some people call it the Red Planet because of the color of its dust. After Mars, Jonas continued on and saw a bunch of little rocks flying. It's the asteroid belt. They are like small planets that couldn't come together to form a big planet. It looks like a space mess. Each planet and each encounter enriched Jonas's imagination, making his space journey increasingly exciting. Jonas, still in his space exploration, spotted the largest planet of all. It's so big that all the other planets together could fit inside it. This planet is called Jupiter. After Jupiter, Jonas saw Saturn. Saturn is famous for its beautiful rings. They look like they're made of ice and shiny little rocks spinning around the planet. Next, Jonas passed by Uranus and said, "This planet is kind of sideways. It spins as if it had fallen over." Uranus is an icy planet and has a very beautiful blue-green color. And finally, Jonas saw Neptune. This planet is farthest from the sun and is also very cold. Neptune has a very mysterious dark blue color and very strong winds. Slowly, the images of the stars and planets disappeared, and Jonas returned to the comfort of his room, sitting in a cardboard box. A serene smile illuminated his face, and in his heart as a dreaming boy, Jonas waited enchanted for the next wonders that the vast universe of his mind would explore. For in that magical room, fantasy was the most powerful of spaceships, capable of transporting a curious boy to distant places without him even leaving the spot.
The Incredible Discovery of Tico the Toucan. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, where trees danced with the wind and colorful flowers perfumed the air, lived Tico, a toucan unlike all the others. His dark, shiny feathers, alert eyes, and enormous beak made him special. But what truly set Tico apart was his endless curiosity. While the other toucans spent most of their days eating fruit in the highest branches, Tico looked at the sky and filled his mind with questions. Who planted all these trees? Why do leaves fall? And where does the sun go when night comes? His questions were about everything around him. The other toucans would say, "Tico thinks too much. He should just enjoy the day." But Tico didn't care what they said. He loved to ask questions, and deep in his heart, he felt that his curiosity would lead him to discover something very special. One sunny morning, While enjoying a fresh fruit, a question popped into Tico's mind that made him very thoughtful. What do I do that's truly important for the forest? I spend most of my time flying and eating fruit at the top of the trees. Tico really wanted to find the answer to this question. Determined to find the answer, he approached a monkey swinging from branch to branch. Do you know what a toucan does that's really important for our forest? Tico asked. The monkey, who just wanted to have fun, didn't know how to answer and continued his playful swinging. Further on, Tico found a tortoise walking calmly. Hello, tortoise. I see you walk very slowly and must observe our forest very well. Can I ask you a question? Tico said. The tortoise, with her patient gaze, replied, You may, young toucan. Tico repeated his question. Do you know what a toucan does that's truly important for our forest? The tortoise, surprised, shook her head. That's a very difficult question. I only see you eating fruit and flying. No one seemed to have the answer. Tico sighed and flew to the branch of the nearest tree. Then, as Tico landed on the branch, feeling a huge sadness, he heard a very relaxing voice. Very slowly, the voice said, Hello, little toucan. What troubles you so much? I see you're not happy. Tico the toucan looked to the side and saw a sloth hanging from a branch of the same tree. He had serene eyes and a tranquility that seemed to envelop everything around him. Slowly, the sloth continued. From up here, I overheard your conversation with the tortoise. You seem to have a big question without an answer. Tico, surprised to have been noticed and feeling a different calm emanating from the sloth, said, Yes. I really want to know the answer to this question. What does a toucan do that's truly important for our forest? The sloth blinked slowly, as if organizing thoughts at his own pace. Well, little toucan, he began, with his soft, drawn-out voice. Have you ever thought that sometimes the answer is in what you do without even realizing it? The forest is a big puzzle, and each of us is an essential piece, even without knowing it. Tico tilted his head, curious. But how will I find that out? The sloth smiled lazily. Observe, little toucan. Observe what happens when you do what you do. Answers don't always come in words. They reveal themselves in the consequences of your actions. Even more curious, Tico felt a new hope. He thanked the sloth and, with a lighter mind, decided to follow the advice. He would no longer search for answers in questions, but in actions and observations. From that moment on, Tico would pay even closer attention to his flight, the fruits he ate, and every place he landed, hoping that his own actions would reveal the long-awaited why. That same morning, Tico flew to a mango tree laden with fruit. With his powerful beak, he plucked a ripe mango. He ate the succulent pulp, and as always, the seed slipped and fell to the forest floor. But this time, Tico didn't fly away. He waited and watched. Soon a group of busy ants approached the seed. Some fed on it, others seemed to try to carry it. Then an armadillo sniffed the spot, picked up the seed, and quickly buried it a little further away, as if guarding a treasure. Tico watched everything with a gleam in his eyes. He had never stopped to think that by eating a fruit, he was helping other animals also find food, or allowing a new fruit tree to grow there sometime later. Tico wasn't just a toucan feeding himself. He was a gardener of the forest, a sower of hope. The seeds that fell from his beak landed on the fertile ground, and with time, new trees sprouted, providing shade, shelter, and food for other animals.
Miki, the curious earthworm. In a very hidden corner of the forest, deep beneath the damp earth and intertwined with plant roots, lived some very hard-working earthworms. They resided in tunnels and burrows they had dug themselves, forming a true underground labyrinth. There, in that secret and silent place, the earthworms spent most of their days, far from the light and noise of the world above. But among all the earthworms living there was one who was very different. Her name was Mickey. While the others were content to spend their days turning over the soil in search of dry leaves and soft roots, Mickey dreamed of the world outside. Whenever she could, she would crawl to the entrance of a tunnel and stretch her tiny body to feel the wind, hear the sounds of the forest, and imagine what lay beyond. She was curious, a dreamer, and had a special wish in her heart to know a flower up close, truly up close, to feel its scent, its colors, and perhaps even talk to it. Who knew? One day I'll go out, Mickey would whisper, looking upwards. One day I'll see a real flower. The other earthworms would laugh and shake their heads. How crazy! Earthworms were born to live in the earth, not to see flowers. But Mickey didn't care. She believed in her dream with all the strength of her tiny heart. And then, on a clear morning, after a night of rain, Mickey decided to explore the surface, and something magical happened. She found a very beautiful flower. Her name was Daisy. Daisy was a flower with petals as white as clouds and a golden yellow center that looked like a tiny sun. The flower swayed gently in the breeze, always smiling at the sky. Mickey observed from a distance, feeling a little shy. She was so small, and that flower was so grand. "Hello," a soft, sweet voice called out. It was Daisy, who had noticed the little earthworm nearby. Mickey was so surprised that she almost retreated back into the hole she came from. "Hello," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "You're an earthworm, aren't you?" Daisy asked. "I see many of you down there, but I've never actually talked to one." Mickey gathered her courage and little by little climbed up a bit more so she could better see Daisy's smiling face. "Yes, I'm Mickey, and you're the most beautiful flower I've ever seen." Daisy gave a delicate chuckle. "Thank you, Mickey. And you're the most curious earthworm I've ever met. What do you do down there?" Mickey told her how earthworms help the soil stay soft and airy so that plant roots could breathe. She explained how they ate dry leaves and turned everything into fertilizer for the flowers to grow strong. Daisy listened attentively and said, "That's why my roots feel so comfortable and strong. I never knew you did such important work." From that day on, the earthworm and the flower became great friends. Mickey, during the day, told Daisy the news from underground about the roots that grew, the crickets that made tunnels, and the shiny pebbles she found. Daisy, in turn, shared stories of the world above, the comings and goings of the bees, the movement of the clouds, and the pleasant warmth of the sun. They learned that, even being so different, one small and living in the earth, the other grand and facing the sky, each had an important and special role. And the secret of their friendship was respect and curiosity about understanding each other's world. The friendship of Mickey, the earthworm, and Daisy the flower showed everyone in that little corner of the forest that even the most different beings can help each other and make the world a more beautiful place together. If you liked it, leave your like. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to follow more stories.
A magical color adventure. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by green mountains and an enchanted forest, lived 3 curious and adventurous children, Eliel, Nina, and Manu. One day, while watching butterflies flutter by and chasing after them, they were led to an enchanted place. There, the children discovered something incredible: a beautiful rainbow in the sky. They marveled at everything they saw and had never seen a rainbow as bright as this one. It looked like a portal above the trees. They really wanted to get up close, touch its colors, and discover its secrets, and they wondered, what could be near that rainbow? So, they decided to embark on a great adventure. They followed a path that led them into the forest. There, they found glowing trees, shimmering streams, and enchanted creatures, like golden birds and butterflies of light. After a while, they arrived at a beautiful place, much closer to the rainbow. They watched the lovely arc in the sky, enchanted, and saw all 7 colors. They began to describe the colors. Red is the color of a delicious apple, or a heart drawn on a piece of paper. Orange is like the sunset. Yellow is like the bright sun that warms our day. Green is like soft grass or the leaves of trees. Blue is like the clear sky or the ocean where little fish swim. Indigo is dark blue, like the sky at night before the stars appear. And violet looks like the color of some flowers in the garden. They were fascinated by the beauty of everything they saw. After a while, the rainbow began to disappear, so they decided to return to the village. There, they told their friends that they had a great adventure, and that on this journey, they learned that the rainbow was not just something distant in the sky. It was in every little piece of nature around them, radiating and decorating with its colors, and that each color has its own magic, and together they form the rainbow, which enchants us just by looking at it. Pingo, the Unexpected Visitor. One beautiful day, a small yellow bird named Pingo, who lived in one of the trees in a park in the center of a small town, flew to the garden of a house in search of food and a special place to rest. As he flew through the garden, he noticed that there was an open window in the house. Pingo, curious as always, landed on the windowsill and took a peek. He was enchanted by the sight. A pile of books with colorful covers lay next to a bed covered with a soft comforter, and toys of all kinds seemed to beckon him to play. He found that place very cozy. Giving a little hop inside the room, the bird looked at every corner and admired all the things that were there. Suddenly, Pingo heard a soft laugh coming from afar and a sound of heavy footsteps as if someone was running. He got scared and decided to look for a place to hide. He went near a bed and stayed hidden for a while, carefully observing what that noise could be. Soon, the door began to open. It was a beautiful little girl named Aurora, who was entering her room to get a book. Aurora was very curious and kind. She picked up a storybook and sat on the floor. As she began to read, she felt that there was something else in her room. Aurora looked around and noticed a movement near the bed. She approached slowly, full of curiosity. To her surprise, there was a small yellow bird looking at her with its bright eyes and with fear. "Hello, little friend. Who are you?" Aurora asked with a welcoming smile. Pingo, still shy, decided to slowly come out of his hiding place, and Aurora said, "I won't hurt you." Pingo felt trust in the little girl and came very close to her. Together, they began to explore every corner of the room. Aurora showed him her favorite toys and even read a little story to the bird. Pingo was enchanted by everything. After a while, Aurora gently picked up the bird and took him to the window. The little bird looked at the girl as if saying goodbye. He thought that room was more than special. It was a place where he could find safety and fun. Pingo then flew to the tree where he lived. He felt enormous gratitude for that girl. That experience had made the little bird a little wiser and more knowledgeable about the world beyond the branches of his tree.
Popo's Nap and the Ants. In the heart of the savannah, very close to a lake, lived a very friendly little hippopotamus. His name was Popo. He loved swimming and having fun in the lake near his mommy and other animals. After playing so much, his favorite pastime was taking a nap. One day, after spending some time swimming in the lake, he came out sleepy and found a soft, round little mound of sand that looked like the perfect pillow for a nap. Oh, how delightful, Popo thought, yawning so wide he almost swallowed a passing butterfly. He settled comfortably right in the middle of that cozy hill and, with a sigh of contentment, fell into a deep sleep. But what Popo didn't know was that little mound of sand wasn't just a mound of sand. It was an anthill, the home of thousands of very busy little ants. It wasn't long before a group of worker ants, led by the clever and determined Aunt Fifi, returned to the anthill. They were in the middle of their most important task of the day, carrying the freshest, juiciest leaves to store in the underground pantry. "Oh no!" exclaimed the ants' leader upon seeing the immense hippopotamus occupying the top of the anthill. She said, "How are we going to get through with all these leaves?" The little ants stopped and stared at the sleeping hippopotamus. Some were frightened, others confused. The main entrance to the anthill was right under Popo, the hippopotamus. The ant leading that group, named Fifi, was very clever. She knew there was no point trying to push the hippopotamus. He was too big. She also knew that the work couldn't stop. "Attention, ants," she said loudly. "I have a plan. We'll try to go over the hippopotamus, but without waking him up, and try to find a passage to enter our anthill." The ants, who were great at following orders and working together, quickly understood. Instead of trying to go around the hippopotamus, they began to climb carefully and went right over him. The ants marched in single file, each carrying her little leaf, using the giant, still body of the hippopotamus as if it were part of the path. They climbed up one side and down the other, trying to get into the anthill, but the entrance was blocked by the hippopotamus. Aunt Fifi thought again and had another idea, a bit more daring. "Ants," Fifi called. "New plan. We need to wake that hippopotamus, but without scaring him. What if he wakes up annoyed? Our plan will be this: tickles for the hippopotamus." The ants looked at each other, curious. Fifi explained, "We'll gently tickle him until he moves and gets off our anthill." Leader Fifi selected a few little ants, and carefully and silently, they approached the sleeping giant. They did exactly as Fifi had explained. Popo began to feel a slight tingling sensation, as if something were dancing on his skin. He felt ticklish and chuckled a few times, even in his sleep, wiggling his head a bit. The ants redoubled their efforts, but carefully so as not to hurt the giant. They knew they needed to be persistent, but gentle. Suddenly, slowly, Popo began to roll from side to side. And when they least expected it, he was completely off the anthill, still napping. With the entrance clear, the ants vibrated with joy. Quickly, they began to go in and out of the anthill through the now free passage, carrying their leaves. After a little while, Popo woke up, opened his eyes a little confused, and looked around. "What's happening?" he mumbled, still sleepy. He looked at the ground and saw the tiny, hurried ants. He didn't quite understand what had happened, but he felt a funny tickle. And then the hippopotamus returned to the lake, near his mommy, leaving the anthill free for the little ants to carry out their important work. And so, with a clever plan and lots of tickles, the ants managed to wake up the giant Popo and clear the way home.
Reno, the clumsy rhinoceros, and the buzzing bees. In the vast savanna, where trees offered generous shade and the wind blew everywhere, lived a rhinoceros named Reno. He had thick skin like armor and sharp horns on his nose. Despite his strong appearance, Reno had a kind heart and a very clumsy way about him. Reno loved to wander the savanna, munching on leaves and taking refreshing baths in the lakes he found. But there was one thing that bothered him a lot: the bees. The savanna was full of colorful flowers, and where there are flowers, there are tiny bees buzzing and collecting nectar. The bees weren't bad, but Reno was very clumsy. Sometimes, when running among the trees, he accidentally bumped into their hives or stepped on the flowers where the bees were working. And the bees, startled, didn't like that at all. Every now and then, Reno would get a painful sting on his sensitive snout, and he'd storm off huffing and shaking his head. "These little buzzers just know how to bother me," Reno grumbled to Zilda the zebra, his striped friend. Zilda, who was more observant, replied, "Reno, they don't mean any harm. They're just taking care of their home and collecting food. The flowers need them, did you know that?" Reno wasn't sure. He just knew that he and the bees didn't get along very well. One day, while Reno was running near a large tree, he heard a different buzz, louder and more desperate than usual. He saw a swarm of agitated bees flying around a fallen branch. Their hive was on the ground, broken, and honey was spilling onto the grass. Reno felt sorry for the little bees. They looked so sad and lost. He remembered what Zilda had said about their importance. Carefully, Reno approached the broken hive. He was big and strong. Maybe he could help. Slowly, using his large snout, he began to push the heavy branch that had fallen on the hive. It was a delicate job for such a big, clumsy rhinoceros. The bees buzzed around him, and Reno held his breath, fearing stings. But they didn't sting him. They seemed to understand he was trying to help. With one last effort, the rhinoceros managed to move the branch. The hive, though a little damaged, was now free. The bees began to calm down and return to their home. Suddenly, a small, bright bee flew very close to Reno. Instead of stinging him, it deposited a tiny drop of sweet honey on his nostril. It was a gesture of thanks. He licked the honey and said, "It's delicious." He realized that the bees weren't just little buzzers. They were hardworking, important, and could even be grateful. From that day on, he learned to be more careful where he walked. Reno watched the flowers and branches carefully, avoiding disturbing the bees. And whenever he encountered a little bee, he remembered that day. And so, in the savannah, Reno and the little bees learned to live in harmony, each understanding the other's importance in the great and beautiful cycle of life. Reno discovered that kindness, even from a big, clumsy fellow, can create unexpected bonds, sweet as honey. If you liked it, leave your like. And don't forget to subscribe to follow more little stories.
The Ant and the Dream of Flying. In a very enchanting forest, there was a huge anthill where you could see ants going back and forth, collecting fruits and leaves. In this colony lived an ant named Honey. Since she was little, Honey looked fascinated at the sky, admiring the graceful flight of the butterflies. She had a dream of seeing the whole forest from above. One day, while carrying a huge leaf to her home, she met a caterpillar friend. The caterpillar's name was Flora. Together, they had already had many fun adventures. The two chatted for a long time. Honey the ant asked what Flora the caterpillar was doing. Flora said, "I'm going to climb a tree and eat some fruits and leaves to get stronger." Then, after some time, the ant said that she had to go back to the anthill soon, as she still had a long way to go to get there and needed to store the leaf so it wouldn't dry out. The caterpillar began to climb the tree, smiled, and said, "See you later." When the caterpillar was climbing the tree, she saw Honey the ant from afar and said, "One day I will help my ant friend." So, Flora the caterpillar, after eating a lot, slept, and turned into a beautiful chrysalis. Honey the ant went out every day to collect leaves and small fruits. And while doing so, she watched the butterflies flying and admired them. "I really want to fly," she thought, "even if it's just once." A few days later, Honey left the anthill to gather food. And as she walked through the forest, she had a big scare. She felt a strong wind near her and saw the shadow of something flying overhead. Suddenly, a beautiful butterfly landed in front of Honey the ant. The butterfly said, "I'm Flora." The ant didn't understand, but the butterfly explained everything that had happened to her. The butterfly called the ant and said, "I'll take you for a ride up high." So, Flora took flight, and Honey finally saw the world from above. The forest looked immense with rivers, trees, and mountains that touched the clouds. The ant couldn't contain her joy, laughing and admiring every detail. When they landed, Honey said emotionally, "Thank you so much, Flora. It was the most incredible experience of my life. Now I know that with friends, we can achieve even the most difficult dreams." And so, Honey the ant never again felt like just a small ant on the ground, because she knew that with determination and the help of her friends, it was possible to touch the sky. The friendship between Honey the ant and Flora the butterfly grew even stronger, and they continued to share adventures together.
The Bear and the Rabbit, a friendship in the forest. There was a place near the mountains where many bears could be found. Some of them would rest and sleep in caves after a good meal. Others would try to catch delicious honey from bees in the trees to eat. Among all those who lived in that part of the forest lived a small bear named Luke, who was very different. He was always seeking new adventures and proved to be very calm. His greatest joy was to walk peacefully through the forest, admiring the delicacy of the colorful flowers and savoring the wild fruits he found along the way. One beautiful day, little bear Luke decided to venture a little further from the mountains. His steps barely made a sound as he explored a new part of the forest. Suddenly, on his walk, Luke spotted a small rabbit hiding behind a tree. The rabbit was still and very afraid of the bear. His whole body trembled like a leaf shaken by the wind. Luke stopped and slowly approached. He had no intention of hurting him, but the little rabbit froze. He thought the bear was preparing an attack. So, even though he was scared, the rabbit prepared to flee in a dash, his hind legs already ready to propel him away from that danger. Luke, noticing the little rabbit's panic, said, "Hello, rabbit, what's your name?" And he sat down calmly on the ground. "Hello," said the rabbit, his voice trembling. "My name is Bingo." The bear said, "And mine is Luke. You don't need to be afraid of me. I was just walking and wanted to see who was behind the tree." The rabbit's eyes were fixed on the bear. He had never seen or heard one so close. Then Bingo said, "Are you not going to eat me?" Luke smiled and replied that he would not eat him. They talked a lot. The rabbit admiringly said, "I really wanted to be big and strong like you, because if I were, nothing bad would happen to me. I am small and fragile. Many times I have to hide from danger." The bear Luke listened to everything and said, "I am still a small bear. I still have a lot to grow." And he continued, "And you, rabbit, seem to be very clever and fast." After a long time of talking, the bear Luke said it was time to go home, and they said goodbye to each other. When the rabbit was eating a carrot near his home, he heard a cry for help that wasn't far away, and he decided to see what was happening. He hopped over, arrived at the place, and saw that a bear was caught in a trap. As he approached, he realized it was Luke. Luke, with a sad face, said, "I was going back home and suddenly I got caught here. Please help me." The rabbit, being very clever, thought quickly, "I'll do this. I'll gnaw through the rope and get you out of there." The rabbit gnawed through the rope, and the bear was freed. Luke smiled with relief and thanked Bingo the rabbit very much for what he did. All of this was the beginning of a great friendship. That day, they realized that, regardless of their size and strength, everyone can make a big difference. And they also learned that appearances can be deceiving and that kindness can blossom even in the most unexpected encounters in the forest. If you liked it, leave your like. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
The Caterpillar and the Ant. The Power of Friendship. In a magical forest full of adventures lived a caterpillar named Flora. She was a curious and dreamy caterpillar. She really wanted to know the whole forest. However, there was one thing that bothered her a lot. She thought she was very slow. While her caterpillar friends walked through the leaves and competed for the best flowers, Flora crawled slowly, observing everything. She admired the speed of the butterflies, the agility of the rabbits, and even the slowness of the turtle seemed more efficient than her. One day, observing an ant carrying a gigantic leaf, Flora had an idea and decided to ask for help. Well, she thought, the ant with its strength and determination, being smaller than me, can accomplish something so great. Flora approached the ant and told her about her situation. And to his surprise, the ant, despite being small, showed understanding and wanted to help the little caterpillar. Together, they came up with a plan. Flora would use her privileged vision to find the best paths, while the ant would carry Flora on its leaf. Thus, they began their journey. Flora guided the ant, pointing out shortcuts and obstacles. The ant, with its tireless strength, carried them safely through the forest. Thus, they overcame lakes, mountains of land, and even a group of curious birds. Flora realized that friendship and cooperation could overcome any challenge. By the end of the day, they had reached the other side of the forest, a place full of leaves and juicy fruits. Flora, now faster and with a new friend, felt immense joy. She learned that true speed is not only in the speed of movement, but in efficiency and mutual help. Flora and the ant became great friends, exploring the forest together, proving that even the slowest caterpillar can achieve great feats with the right help. If you liked it, leave your like and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. The Great Adventure to Save the River. There was a river in the heart of an exuberant forest full of life that was much more than a river. It was the source of life for all the animals that lived there. Its waters were so crystal clear that they reflected the blue sky and the treetops like a magic mirror. The river stretched throughout the forest, and all the animals of that region, from the smallest insect to the largest elephant, quenched their thirst on its banks. In this forest lived Zippes, a small squirrel who loved to spend his days hopping between trees, gathering nuts, and having fun near the river. One day, Zipper stopped by the riverbank to drink water and noticed that something was different. The river, which once flowed freely and strongly, was strange. Zipper then walked along the riverbank for a while, trying to discover what was happening. Suddenly, he arrived at a place where he could see many tree trunks blocking the river. These trunks were right in the middle, blocking the water's passage. The river was getting lower and lower, and the land around it was already starting to dry up. The fish were having difficulty swimming, and the other animals were starting to worry. So Zipper ran to warn the other animals and ask for help. On his way, he met his friend Feather, a very clever toucan, and explained what he had seen. The toucan said, "We need someone very strong to move this tree." The squirrel said, "Yes, someone with a lot of strength." Then Zipper had an idea. He thought of his friend Trunky, an adventurous baby elephant who was known for his enormous strength and good heart. Zipper hopped through the forest in search of him. "Trunky, Trunky," said Zipper, "the river is blocked. We need your help." Trunky the elephant opened his big, curious eyes. Upon hearing all about the river, he immediately stood up. "A blocked river? Let's go, Zipper. I'll help." They went to the place Zipper had spoken of. Arriving there, Trunky saw fallen trees, thick branches, and trunks blocking the water's passage. He tried to push with his powerful trunk, applying all his strength, but the tree didn't move an inch. He tried again and again, but it was too heavy. Discouragement began to set in. It was then that the toucan, flying agilely over the river, noticed something important and said, "Wait, wait. Trunky the elephant, there are many tree trunks. It would be better to remove the ones in front. That way, the other trunks will go downstream." So, the elephant did exactly what the toucan advised. Thus, the trunks and fallen tree remains floated away, downstream. The water, previously blocked, began to flow strongly again. The fish jumped for joy, and the other animals of the forest, who had been watching anxiously, applauded and held a party for Trunky the elephant, Zipper the squirrel, and Feather the toucan. The river was free, and life in the forest was safe. And so, they learned that even the biggest problems can be solved with a little strength, a clever plan, and the help of good friends. Zipper realized that even the smallest help can be the most important when working as a team.
The Greedy Monkey in the Magic Garden. High up in the branches of a forest lived Kiko, a clever but very greedy monkey. His greatest treasure was the yellow bananas he found, and he didn't like to share his fruits with anyone. One day, Kiko found a bunch so big he could barely carry it. "This is all mine," he said, hugging the bananas with satisfaction. He ate and ate until, in no time, the entire bunch was gone. The other monkeys in that part of the forest would look at him and say, "You're so greedy, you should share your fruit." Kiko didn't care what he heard. After a while, Kiko went out into the forest looking for more fruit. On his way, he met Lila, a colorful parrot. "Kiko, what are you doing?" Lila asked. The monkey replied, "I'm going after some more tasty fruits." Lila said, "Don't you think you're overdoing it, Kiko? You spend all day eating." "I don't think so. I just want a little more," Kiko replied. Lila then began to talk about a legendary place, a magic garden filled with sparkling fruits. There you could find golden apples, sweet grapes, and mangoes that looked like they were made of honey. Kiko was fascinated. "Where is this garden?" Kiko asked, his eyes gleaming with curiosity. "The one who knows the way is the great gorilla Congo," Lila answered. "He's the guardian of the magic garden." Kiko didn't waste any time and ran to find the gorilla Congo. He imagined the bright, tasty fruits he could eat. When he got close to where Congo lived, Kiko saw the big gorilla. The monkey approached him and explained the story he'd heard about the garden. "Please, Congo, take me to the magic garden," Kiko begged. "I want to see and taste all the fruits by myself." Congo looked at him carefully and said, "The path to the garden isn't easy, little monkey. You have to learn something very important. Only those who are willing to share can eat the fruits. Otherwise, you'll never be able to taste the fruits of that garden." Kiko's eyes widened. "Share? But I want all the fruits just for me." The gorilla Congo said, "Then you'll never find the garden. The magic fruits disappear when someone tries to eat them alone." Kiko was frustrated. but his curiosity and hunger were so great that he decided to try. "All right, just show me the way." Congo sighed and pointed to a trail that led to a big tree. In that tree was a hole that looked like a portal. "Follow that path and enter the portal. It will take you to an enchanted garden. But remember, you'll only find what you're looking for if your heart is ready to share." Kiko ran down the trail and found a tree with a hole. "Maybe that's the portal the gorilla talked about," he said. So the monkey went in and suddenly found a magic garden. It was even more beautiful than he had imagined. Golden apples, shining grapes, and irresistible yellow bananas. The monkey couldn't resist. He grabbed a banana and took the first bite. But at that very moment, poof! The fruit turned into a brilliant smoke and vanished into the air. "What?" Kiko yelled, confused. "That's not fair." He tried another fruit and another, but they all disappeared as soon as they reached his mouth. Exhausted and sad, Kiko sat under a tree. That's when he heard giggling from behind a bush. It was a few hungry bunnies who were looking at the fruits with desire but didn't dare to get closer. Kiko stood up and thought about Congo's words. He sighed deeply, picked a shining grape, and offered it. "Want to try some?" As soon as the first little bunny accepted, the grape didn't disappear. On the contrary, it became even sweeter and juicier. Filled with wonder, Kiko called more animals, little birds, squirrels, and even other monkeys. Every fruit he shared with them multiplied, filling the garden with even more magic. After a while, Kiko left the garden and returned to the gorilla Congo with a big smile on his face. "Now I understand," he said. "The fruits only have true magic when we share them." The gorilla smiled and said, "Exactly, little monkey. That's the garden's true treasure." From that day on, Kiko never kept bananas and other fruits just for himself. Kiko discovered that sharing made his belly and his heart feel equally full. And the entire forest came to know him not as the greedy monkey, but as Kiko, the generous monkey.
The Little Mouse and the Cheese Moon. Once upon a time, in a little hole well hidden in a branch, lived a small and dreamy mouse. Every night, he looked at the moon that lit up the starry sky. To the little mouse, the moon looked like a giant cheese in the sky. He spent hours imagining what it would be like to live up there and whispered softly, "Maybe those little holes are made by the bites of alien mice that live on the moon." The mouse lost himself in his thoughts, inventing stories and adventures that only existed in his imagination. One night, before going to sleep, he stood on the branch of the tree, admiring the moon and the glow it spread across the starry sky. His little eyes sparkled with curiosity. Then, slowly, he closed his eyes and began to dream. In his dream, the little mouse found a yellow balloon, round like a cheese, right next to the branch where he was. The mouse then approached and grabbed the string of the balloon. At that very moment, the balloon began to rise straight into the sky, closer and closer to the bright moon. His little heart was beating fast with excitement. Would he finally discover the secrets of the round cheese in the sky? The balloon flew high and fast. The mouse looked all around and saw the stars twinkling like little lanterns in the sky. He was amazed and said, "I'm coming, cheese moon." Suddenly, the mouse gently landed on the surface of the moon, and all around there were little caves that looked like cheese holes. To his surprise, he found other tiny mice with little antennas on their heads. They were the moon mice. "Welcome, traveler from Earth," said one of them, smiling. "We were waiting for you." The moon mice explained that the enchanted balloon had been sent to Earth by them because they noticed how much the little mouse admired the cheese moon. They also offered him a piece of lunar cheese, which tasted sweet and salty at the same time, something he had never tasted before. Together, they ran and jumped between craters and even slid down piles of dust. It was like living inside an enchanted dream. But suddenly, the little mouse heard, "It's time to return home," said the moon mice. "But don't worry, whenever you look at the moon, we will be smiling at you." The mouse flew once more in the yellow balloon that brought him back to his home. Then, when he opened his eyes, he was lying on the branch of the tree. The mouse smiled and said, "Maybe it was just a dream, or maybe not." What is certain is that night, the mouse slept happily, believing that the moon really kept magical secrets, and that one day he could return to play with his new lunar friends. Dreaming takes us to amazing places, and sometimes our dreams feel so real that they become part of our lives. If you liked it, leave your like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow more stories.
The magic of the little hummingbird. In an enchanted forest where you could find plants and flowers of all colors, there lived a tiny hummingbird who loved spending his days flying quickly and kissing every little flower he found. One beautiful morning, as he was flying, he heard mean laughter. He looked around and saw some carnivorous plants looking at him and saying, "Look at that little bird. He only does the same thing every day." And they continued to mock the little hummingbird. He felt his heart sink. "I am so small," he thought, and said in a low voice, "The only thing I do is drink nectar. I'm not good for anything else." So, the hummingbird returned to the branch of a tree where he lived. His sadness grew so much that he stopped flying for days. After a while, the flowers, which used to wait for his daily visit, began to lose their sparkle. Their petals wilted and fell. The bees, who once danced in the air with a happy buzz, now flew from one side to the other, confused and sad, without finding any nectar. The forest was losing its shine and its joy. With no spirit, feeling his heart squeezed, the little hummingbird decided to leave the forest. He needed to go to a place where no one would mock him. While flying far away from the forest, he saw a beautiful tree and stopped on a branch to rest. He was deep in thought and very sad about everything he had heard from the carnivorous plants. Suddenly, a calm and husky voice broke the silence. "Why are you crying, little hummingbird?" The hummingbird was startled. Right there, a beautiful tree was talking to him. The eyes of that tree were attentive and quiet, as if they guarded all the secrets of the forest. The hummingbird had never talked to a tree before. He was so surprised that he could barely speak. That tree gave a slow and kind smile with an even more comforting voice. "Don't be afraid, little one. I have lived in this forest for a very long time, and I have seen many things happen. Stay calm and tell me what makes you so sad. Maybe I can help you." "I'm so small," the hummingbird whispered. "The carnivorous plants are right. I just spend my days flying and drinking nectar. What good is that for the forest?" The tree gently swayed its branches and smiled. "Oh, little one, don't you understand your own magic? The life of our forest doesn't depend only on the big and strong. The life of our forest depends on you too." The hummingbird, still confused, tilted his head. "What you call drinking nectar is, in fact, a dance of life," the tree continued. "As you pass from flower to flower, the magic dust of life sticks to your little wings and your beak. It is this dust that makes each flower open with joy and bear fruit. Without your dance, the flowers don't bloom and the forest loses its colors. You are the guardian of beauty and life." The hummingbird was amazed. He had never thought of that. His heart, which was once heavy, now beat with happiness. Flying faster than ever, he returned to the forest and began to visit the flowers that were already wilted. He flew to one and then to another, with his beak softly touching each petal. Little by little, magic happened. The first flower opened, shining with new colors. The second and third did the same. The forest, which was sad and without color, was once again filled with light, perfume, and joy. The bees returned to buzzing, happy. And the carnivorous plants, who used to mock him, were amazed by the transformation. They realized that the importance of the little hummingbird was much greater than they had thought. From that day on, the little hummingbird was never sad again. He learned that true strength is not in the size of the body or in the muscles, but in the purpose of the heart. He flew happily, knowing that with his magical dance, he was the soul of that enchanted forest. If you liked it, leave your like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow more little stories. The Spider and the Bee. In an enchanted forest lived a small spider named Liz. She lived on a tree branch and enjoyed weaving her web. One day, while walking on her web, Liz saw a small bee land on a flower that was very close by. Every day, this bee used to land on the flowers. Liz then would watch and wonder what that bee was doing. One day, the bee approached the spider's web. Then, the spider Liz timidly said, "Hello, what's your name?" The bee replied with a friendly buzz, "Hello, my name is Bella," and said, "You're making a very beautiful web." Liz really liked what she heard, and she said, "Thank you. And what are you doing?" "I'm collecting pollen to make honey," said the bee Bella. "It's a very important job." Liz became curious. "Honey?" she asked. "What is that?" The bee landed on a flower and explained that honey was a sweet and delicious food. Bees collect pollen from flowers to produce honey and feed the hive. The bee Bella continued to say, "Pollen is essential for plants and is also a food source for many insects." The spider Liz in her web said, "I would love to try honey one day." The bee approached the spider, smiled, and said, "Who knows, maybe one day I'll bring you some." Liz was very happy with the idea. The two talked for a long time, and they discovered that they had a lot in common. Liz learned about the importance of bees for nature, and Bella learned about the patience and skill of spiders. After a while, the bee said goodbye to Liz and flew to her hive. One day, the bee returned with a small pot of honey for Liz. From that day on, the bee and the spider became great friends. They learned that even though they were different, they could have fun and help each other. If you liked it, leave your like. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
The Three Little Rabbits and the Fox. In an enchanted forest, full of vibrant life, lived three very special little bunnies. Snow, the most curious, Bella, always brimming with brilliant ideas, and Buster, brave and protective. They lived happily and securely in their cozy burrow with Mom and Papa Bunny, always surrounded by much affection. One sunny morning, fun called. The three little bunnies decided to play tag in the woods. Mama Bunny hugged them tightly and, with a smile that held a hint of worry, warned, "Be careful, my loves. Don't stray too far." Excited, the bunnies hopped off into the woods. But what they didn't know was that in that same forest lived a very wily fox, known for her tricks. She was feared by many, and every day she roamed the forest. Her attentive ears caught any unusual sound, and her keen sense of smell always guided her. From afar, the fox heard the bunny's laughter and immediately thought, What luck for me. A fluffy, distracted little snack. Silently she approached and, with the sweetest voice she could feign, said, "Hello, little ones. You're having so much fun. Can I play with you?" The bunnies exchanged glances. Something didn't smell right. The fox wanted to play, or rather, hunt. Hide and seek was the perfect plan to separate the bunnies. "Let's play hide and seek," suggested the fox. "I'll count to 10, and you hide." Buster thought this was strange, but Snow and Bella, excited by the game, agreed. Then the fox turned to a tree as if to count. But before she began, she murmured with a cruel smile, "When each one is well hidden, one by one, I will hunt and devour them." What she didn't know was that Buster had hidden himself very close to her, behind a bush, and he heard everything. To his astonishment, he also saw the fox's eyes open slightly, following every movement of Snow and Bella. Buster's heart raced, but he felt no fear. He felt urgency. He ran to Snow and said, "Snow! It's a trap! The fox is going to hunt us!" Then he found Bella and warned her too. The three together started running as fast as they could, leaping through bushes, over rocks, and around roots. The fox, finishing her fake count, turned with a hungry smile. But where were the bunnies? Her eyes widened. The hiding spots were empty. She sniffed the air, huffed in anger, and saw in the distance 3 little bunnies fleeing like the wind. She growled in frustration. The bunny siblings returned home, panting but relieved. The fox's cunning almost caught them, but their unity and agility were even stronger. If you liked it, leave your like. And don't forget to subscribe to follow more little stories.
The Tortoise and the Rabbit, a lesson about abilities. In an enchanted forest lived a tortoise named Tuga. He was known for his patience and also for his determination. One day, as he was walking, he came across a group of rabbits who loved to run and jump near a lake. They were fast and always challenged each other in exciting races. Tuga was amazed by their speed. So, he got closer to the rabbits and heard one of them say, "Look at that tortoise, how slow he is. It must be very bad to walk so slowly." The tortoise, with a peaceful smile, replied, "Maybe speed isn't everything. One day I might surprise you." Then, he decided to continue his walk in slow steps until he reached the edge of a beautiful lake. And in that lake was an island that Tuga had never seen before. Tuga, being curious, decided to venture swimming to that island. Arriving there, he saw beautiful trees and juicy fruits. Tuga then spent a good time enjoying that place, walking and eating various fruits. When he returned to the forest, the tortoise Tuga met his friend the squirrel. His name was Kiko. Tuga and the squirrel Kiko talked for a while, and Tuga said that he had been to a very enchanted island. Everything there was very colorful and magical. The squirrel really wanted to visit the island, but he didn't know how to get there. But Tuga said, "I can take you on my shell." When Tuga and the squirrel were talking, the rabbit who had mocked the tortoise when he said he was very slow was passing by at that very moment and heard the whole conversation. And upon hearing everything, the rabbit waited and watched what the tortoise and the squirrel were going to do. Tuga went to the lake with the squirrel on his shell and began to swim, aiming to reach the island. From afar, the rabbit watched everything. He ran off and went to call his other rabbit friends. Tuga and the squirrel Kiko had a lot of fun on that island. There, they enjoyed many adventures and charms that the island provided. After a while, when they were returning to the forest, Tuga saw that there were some rabbits near the lake. The rabbits approached Tuga, and one of them said, "I would really like to visit that island too. I saw that you carried the squirrel on your shell and swam there. You both came back so happy." The tortoise said, "All right, rabbit, I can do that for you. Climb onto my shell." The two set off and went to that island. They had a lot of fun there. When they were returning, the rabbit regretted everything he had said to Tuga. And then, upon reaching the edge of the lake, the rabbit said, "Tuga, you're very strong because you can carry the weight of a rabbit on your back. You're also very clever because you know how to swim very well." Tuga was happy to hear all this and said to the rabbit, "My friend, I may not be fast, but I have some abilities that other animals don't have." The tortoise continued, "Everyone has different abilities. Some can fly, others jump, and others can swim. And sometimes we depend on the help of one or another. Sometimes speed is not the most important thing. Patience and good help can take us further." The rabbits learned a valuable lesson that day. They began to respect Tuga's calm and attentive way and decided that instead of mocking him, they could learn from him. Tuga and the rabbits became great friends, and together, they discovered that everyone has their own way of reaching their goals. If you liked it, leave your like, and don't forget to follow our channel to follow more stories.
Unraveling the mystery of the deep sea. In the depths of the ocean lived a small fish named Leo. He was very brave and loved a good adventure. One beautiful day, while swimming, Leo met some marine friends talking about a mysterious place in the deep sea where giants descended from the surface. Leo heard that this place was very dangerous and that the fish, and even other marine animals in that region, believed that large monsters from the surface lived there. It was a mystery that scared everyone. Hearing all this, Leo said, "It's time to unravel the mystery. I will go to this mysterious place." His friends didn't believe what he said and told him, "It's too dangerous, Leo." But his curiosity was greater than his fear. He knew he needed to discover the truth behind those stories. So, after some time, Leo set off on his challenging journey. He swam for a long time, passing by underwater mountains and rocky corals. On the way, Leo encountered a jellyfish floating slowly nearby. "Hello, little jellyfish. Can you tell me if I'm close to finding the place where the surface giants live?" Leo asked. The jellyfish, with its soft light, replied, "Yes, little fish. This mysterious place where giants descended from the sea surface is near the great rock of seaweed. But be careful. You might encounter sharks on the way there, so be very careful, little fish." Leo thanked her and continued on his way. After swimming for a while, Leo found several strange objects scattered across the ocean floor. He approached slowly, his heart pounding. The closer he got, the less frightening the creatures seemed. They didn't move. They didn't have eyes that followed him, nor teeth that scared him. What were these monsters then? Leo wondered. Each time he got closer, Leo realized it wasn't a living creature, but a shipwreck. He looked around and realized that the other creatures were also parts of the ship that had sunk a long time ago. There was a broken mast, a giant anchor, and even pieces of wood that once were the hull of a large ship. Leo realized that the mystery wasn't about scary monsters, but about a large sunken ship and the remains of vessels that now served as homes for small marine creatures. Suddenly, as he was ready to leave the mysterious place and return home, Leo saw a shark coming towards him. The shark approached and said, "I'm going to devour you, little fish." So Leo swam and hid near the ship. The shark, trying to reach the little fish, swam so fast that it didn't even notice a fishing net that was near the ship. The shark got stuck and couldn't get out. Seeing the shark entangled in the fishing net, Leo swam quickly to leave that mysterious place and went home. With the truth revealed, Leo felt immense joy. He arrived at the reef, and the news spread like a wave. There were no monsters or giants. There was only a ship that had fallen from the surface. From that day on, the fear of the great creatures transformed into curiosity and fascination. And Leo, the little fish, became known to all the marine animals of the reef, proving that sometimes the truth behind a mystery is much simpler and more interesting than one imagines. If you liked it, leave your like. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to follow more stories. Zipper the Squirrel and the Illuminated Lake. In a tree in the middle of the forest lived a squirrel named Zipper. He was very clever and always attentive to everything around him. He was a small squirrel, but his courage was immense. One day, while savoring a nut on a tree branch, Zipper noticed an owl nearby. She was on another branch and seemed very friendly. Curious, Zipper approached and asked her name. The owl, with her large, calm eyes, replied,
"Hi, little squirrel. My name is Clara."
Zipper said,
"I'm always attentive to everything that happens near this tree, and I've never seen you in the forest before."
The owl said,
"I usually fly more at night, looking for food. During the day, I rest on top of a tree after the lake. I stopped here on this branch to rest."
The little squirrel said,
"I usually look for food and have a lot of fun during the day, because at night I find everything very dark."
Upon hearing Zipper the squirrel, the owl said,
"I have a great skill. I can see very well and from far away. I fly almost all night and see many interesting things."
Zipper, fascinated by Clara's ability, asked,
"Owl, what's the most interesting thing you see at night?"
The owl replied,
"There are many interesting things, but I really like to see the glow of some lights that fly over the lake."
The two talked for a long time, having fun and sharing stories. The owl bid farewell to the squirrel and flew away. Zipper, adventurous and courageous as he was, became curious and really wanted to know what those lights were. He was amazed by the story of the lights on the lake, as he always went there to drink water, but that was during the day. One beautiful night, the little squirrel, up in the tree preparing to sleep, thought and decided to go to the lake to see the shining lights the owl had spoken of. He was a little scared, as he didn't like walking through the forest at night. Zipper climbed down the tree and quickly ran to the lake. Arriving there, he approached the water and saw many bright lights. He was amazed at what he was seeing. It was a spectacle of firefly lights. Zipper spent a little time observing and then quickly rushed back to his tree. Upon reaching the tree where he lived, he came across a bear lying down. The little squirrel stopped behind a bush and became very scared. He thought,
"How am I going to climb the tree now? That big bear might wake up and devour me if I make a noise."
Zipper stood still behind the bush, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, the bear woke up and said,
"I smell a squirrel nearby."
The bear stood up and began to walk around the tree. Zipper, hidden behind the bush, looked up and saw Clara the owl on a branch of the tree. The owl from above said,
"I'm going to help you, little squirrel."
Then she flew down and passed very close to the bear, making a very loud sound and luring him away. Zipper, seeing the bear moving away, quickly ran and climbed the tree. A short time later, the squirrel no longer heard the sound of the owl or the footsteps of the big bear. Zipper waited for the owl to find out what had happened. Suddenly, Clara landed next to Zipper. With a smile on her face, she said,
"My squirrel friend, are you calmer now? I came here when night fell and didn't find you, so I decided to wait for you. When I was almost leaving, I saw you behind a bush down there hiding. I saw that you were afraid of the bear. I just stood here observing and thinking about what I would do. So I decided to scare the bear away, luring him to another place."
Zipper was very grateful for the owl's help and said,
You really are very clever. Thank you very much for helping me.
From that day on, Zipper and Clara became inseparable friends. The courageous squirrel, who once feared the darkness, learned to appreciate the night through the eyes of the wise owl. Clara, in turn, discovered the beauty of the day through Zipper's adventures and curiosities, and together they explored the forest, each sharing their skills and adventures. If you liked it, leave your like. And don't forget to subscribe to follow more little stories.